Well, good evening, or rather, good afternoon, everybody. This is me, Frank Fry, the gaming graybeard, and I come to you today to review a very, very, very fine Call of Cthulhu product. Now, recently, Runeslinger did an excellent review of Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. And he pretty much said a lot of the things that I would have said. I'm pretty much in agreement with Runeslinger on a lot of his on all of his conclusions. And just recently, the Rogue DM, aka Jenny Sari, I hope I got that last name pronounced correctly, Jenny, did a very excellent and informative review of the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition Player's Guide. And I highly recommend both of these people with their reviews because, quite frankly, they're among the best going. They truly are. But what I'm going to talk about today is neither of those. I want to talk about a part of the whole Call of Cthulhu gaming genre that I think doesn't really get enough love. And that is the Delta Green setting. So we're going to start with a little bit of back history. So bear with me, I'm going to disappear and reappear as if by some sort of mythos magic. Oof. And yes, it's me, and I'm back again. Here we go. So we're going to start talking a little bit. We're going to start by talking about what has come before. Now, this is the original Delta Green, published in the 1990s, and in fact, I believe this is 1995 or thereabouts. Anyway, you're looking at the era of the X-Files, of government conspiracies and cover-ups, all sorts of other intriguing things, called the Clinton administration, among other things. And this was put out by Pagan Publishing. Copyright 1996, in fact. The X-Files had been out and had been going. There were all sorts of interesting government conspiracies, this, that, and the other. The conspiracy theory movement really started going then. And part of it was due to the internet and the fact that these, in my opinion, loonies could spread their crap far and wide. Wow. But anyway, this came out in 1996. Now, this was not a complete game. You had to have the Call of Cthulhu game from Chaosium in order to use this effectively. And because this is really a licensed supplement, it still used the basic uh, BRP, as it's called, percentile systems. But oh my god, what wonderful material this contained. The initial Delta Greeners were Dennis Detweiler, Adam Scott Glancy, and John Tynes. These guys were the original. You also had John H. Crow III, Robert McLaughlin. Okay, now I know John Tynes, and I know Adam Scott Glancy, and I know Dennis Detweiler. I've met them all. They're great folks. They really are. Darkly creative. But what this did was this actually took cosmic horror, Call of Cthulhu, and it brought it in to our world. This is a tremendous book. It's also a pretty big one. It's about 295 pages of material. You get all kinds of stuff. You get background histories, just an incredible amount of material. This one went like wildfire. Delta Green, the super secret government agency. Well, conspiracy, actually. And that's what it was. Delta Green was officially disbanded in 1969, according to this. It's been carrying on ever since as an underground conspiracy devoted to fighting the manifestations of the Cthulhu mythos and secretly using taxpayer money to do it, which was pretty cool. Like I said, this is a wealth of material. It was tremendous, of a special interest. And what I think is one of the best things going on is, although now it's out of date, there's an entire huge section on all the departments of the federal government. It is just friggin' amazing. Federal Agencies by Adam Scott Glancy. A shout out to Scott, who's a great guy, and I like to think of one of my good and close friends. And the amount of work he did on this was just, I mean, this put it at your fingertips. You could construct all sorts of conspiracies. These were very much agents who lived on the edge. And it was still Call of Cthulhu. And like I said, I found out that basically Chaosium, who held the license to this, basically limited them to the number of products they could put out per year. Wow. Okay. Each one was well worth waiting for. The next stop, aside from me popping back up, was arguably one of the best role-playing game supplements I've ever come across. And that is Delta Green Countdown. It's an amazing work. It's a source book. Boy, is it ever. It is, once again, by Dennis Detweiler, Adam Scott Glancy, and John Tynes. Here we've got other people contributed. Adam Crossingham, John Crow, Daniel Harms, David Manna, Graham Price, and diverse hands. Probably webbed and scaly, but you didn't hear it from me. Now you're looking at over 400 pages of goodness. And it has some remarkable stuff in it. To give you an example, and what is one of my favorite parts, Chapter 9, the Hastur Mythos. John Tynes's absolutely incredible essay. Let me read you an excerpt from this. He's talking about Hastur, the unnamed, and taking it in an entirely different direction. Likewise, those who worship the idea they know as Hastur have seen in it certain properties clearly related to entropy, and therefore these people could have an understanding of fundamental entropic forces and the role in our lives that is denied to the rest of us. Well, that's really something. Now, he prefaced this with saying, imagine a deity based on the law of gravity that was described as living in the center of the earth and who was constantly pulling all of creation towards itself. While still wholly fictional, this conception does nevertheless have a strong relationship with the physical properties of gravity. And therefore, those who worship such a deity could have a powerful instinctual understanding of the law of gravity and its effect on human lives. And then we do the likewise thing about Hastur and entropy. In brief, Hastur can be described as a force that has influence over the realm of insidious destruction. It breaks things down not from without, but from within. Its force is sublimely subtle. In practice, Hastur's primary area of operations is the human mind. The manifold subtleties of thoughts and chemicals that comprise our personalities are the fields in which Hastur is at play. And then further on, the noticeable result is insane, destructive tendencies. That's wild when you really look at this. And then you realize it would take a very special group of people, the very special game master, to accept this challenge. But it's here, and it is great. We have a number of other things. They have a section on psychic powers in the Cthulhu mythos. And once again, an extensive. They also have, I might add, one of the best Call of Cthulhu adventures I have ever read, called The Night Floors by Dennis Detweiler, and a hats off and a big tip to you, Dennis. This was an amazing piece of work. They also have in here a very extensive international federal agencies. Basically what they did in the original Delta Green, they simply expanded to an international stage now. And it was edited by Scott Glancy. It says written by diverse hands. And it has a list here of, the various contributors down here under credits. In fact, it's really and most amazing. So this is what it's a very amazing book. And so this came out, and let me flip through this. I should have probably had this written down, but that's all right. You can yell at me about this later. Came out in 1999, right at the beginning of the new millennium. They also came out with a couple of supplements. Delta Green, eyes only, and Delta Green, targets of opportunity. And these were really, really good. Very good. And again, from Pagan Publishing. In fact, I think, let me see, I know now where to look for it. And this came out around 2007, actually, which just makes this the latest one, really, 9 years ago. And then this one this one actually expanded this one actually came out in 2010, which makes this the later one. Actually, came out within a year. Good quality work, too. I love these books. They're a great read. And now we have Shane Ivey, another very fine writer. And just amazing. So you had this long line of Delta Green material that came out. Now, I haven't bored you with this, but I thought it was important to build up to Delta Green Player's Guide, which will be the new format. Now, there was also an extensive line of fiction, which I have just about every one of them. The storyline evolves constantly evolves. Instead of nowadays being a secret underground conspiracy within the federal government, it's not a secret anymore. It's simply an underground conspiracy within the federal government. There has also been a split. There's the old guard, Delta Green, who don't come in from the cold, as it were. And then you got the new guys operating with the new Delta Green. That makes it very fascinating. But let's get into this, because this, of course, is what you've been sitting through near 20 minutes worth of my ramblings for. And this is from Arc Dream Publishing, because now they went ahead, got the open gaming license, and turned around and made Delta Green into what it probably should have been all along. And that is a standalone game on its own, and not just yet another Call of Cthulhu supplement. So we get this. I bought the PDF and had it printed out. Yeah. I happen to like books that lay, and besides, when I get the hardback editions of everything, this will serve as an extra player's guide, and it never helps, or hurts rather. Excuse me, never hurts to have one of those. Now, this was the result of a Kickstarter, a very successful one. And I think at the time, because of, I'm not sure what concerns, but I didn't really take part, although probably next week I'm going to go ahead and order everything from them in the hardback because I definitely want the hardbacks. But in this one, as it says here in the intro in the player's guide, Delta Green is a covert group inside the United States federal government. And yeah, still makes it pretty bad. But, you're still agents. You're still part of a covert group, but now you're not an underground conspiracy. You're a covert group within the United States government, which makes things really interesting, especially given who we might wind up having for president. My God, President Donald Trump having access to the Cthulhu mythos. Man, if that doesn't chill your, then I don't know what will. Anyway, like any good player's guide, it gives you a full, how do you make an agent? How do you create them? Now, what I think is interesting is one of the things that they have in here, and I think it's one of the best. It's not just lose your sanity. They have something called bonds. Bonds indicate the strength of relationships with the most important people in your agent's life, like a spouse or children, a partner, or a mentor. Bonds help agents resist mental trauma. But if your agent's life falls apart under the stress of Delta Green, bonds deteriorate. And each bond has a value that starts equal to your agent's charisma. Now we'll flip here to page 36. And they have the whole thing in here. This is fascinating because it gives a mechanic by which you can actually track your character's deterioration. There's the whole thing about bonds with groups or individuals. Has a lot of sample bonds such as spouse or ex-spouse, a son or a daughter, parents or grandparents, best friend, coworker, partner, all sorts of different things. When a bond deteriorates, that relationship, by the way, this is what happens when bonds get broken. When a bond deteriorates, that relationship becomes strained. Exactly what shape that takes in play is up to you and the handler, i.e. the DM, but I like the term handler because it is an intelligence term. It's playing the NPCs. Bonds often fall apart because of events beyond your agent's control. Your agent's husband might leave for another woman. One of the members of your agent's platoon might be killed. Your agent's partner, Delta Green, could go insane. If a disaster harms the subject of a bond, that reduces the bond's value by 1d4. Now remember, these are going to start out on the average of 9 to 12, so 4 points could be a killer. If the disaster permanently removes the subject of the bond, that bond is gone. Cross it off the sheet. When the damage to a bond reduces it to 0, the relationship is damaged beyond repair. Cross it off the sheet. The only way to regain a bond with that character or group is to build it from scratch. Okay. And this could be very, very harmful. But they do have, all of these are interesting. I mean, they have a lot of very, very, very good stuff in here. Skills. They have professions. Sanity is always loads of fun. And they have lots of threats to your sanity. Hey, yeah, it's Call of Cthulhu. That's, there we go. But they also have disorders, um, temporary insanity, do all sorts of things here. This is an entire toolbox for which you can construct which you could construct a very interesting Delta Green character. I recommend this highly. Get over to Drive Through RPG, look up Arc Dream, grab yourself. I have a clear plastic cover on this, so I don't want it to start reflecting the light. Delta Green Agent's Handbook. Okay? PDF. I believe it's only 25 bucks, which is cheap. You could do what I did and have it printed out and bound, so it's, for me anyway, easier to read. But get this, especially the part on bonds and the breakdown of your personality. It's going to be well worth your time, even just for the player's guide. And one more thing. People often say, okay, well, you know, there any movies or such to watch? Yeah. Now, obviously, the X-Files, you know, or Fringe, a number of them. But here's a recommendation I give you. There is a show on Netflix. It's done by BBC Wales, and it's called Hinterland. And it's about a Metropolitan London Police DCI, Detective Chief Inspector, who winds up assigned to a town in Wales. And it's the scenery is incredibly bleak and evocative. The camera work is excellent. The stories are very good, and the acting is first rate. But what it shows is this guy deteriorating slowly. He's completely cut off now from his wife and his children, which now is ex-wife, and he can't see his kids anymore. They're gone. They're out of his life, and it really shows the effect of what this is like. By the way, the plots are very good. The NPCs are great. And overall, I highly, highly recommend this show. Hinterland. And anyway, that's pretty much it. I have rambled on long enough. So, all of you out there, take care. Buy this. Remember, have fun. Play games.